Okay, so I just looked at that and the last video came out to like 4 minutes, which was not my goal. I was trying to get like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, somewhere in there. So we're gonna try to tighten this up on the Gothic themes for my next question. So I find it very interesting. There's two things that stand out to me in this novel that I picked up on so far from the Gothic themes. And I think that is the character's actual retrograde progression through the story, as well as physical descriptors. I actually kind of want to start with the physical descriptors. Some of the things that I mean by that are like the actual location, but also a lot of weather and actual light plays. So here we have some descriptors of Soho, which show a very different world than the London that was described in the previous chapters. Soho is dark, and the author Stevenson says dismal, also showing homeless children bundled at doorways and drunks in the street, women of the night, I think, with keys to houses. It's a very different picture than the casual stroll type environment that's painted in London as bright and cheery. This is a classic Gothic theme, I believe, showing the dark times and how people can be put out, and the poor, the hungry, the sick. The more not discussed or not reveled in facts of life, I will say, the harsh realities. So when it comes to like actual weather changes, there's a lot of fog mentioned because we're in London, but I don't really see the fog mentioned until there's twists and turns in the story. For instance, the incident at the window, in that chapter, they discuss premature twilight and how there's this darkness, even though the sun hasn't set yet and the sky is still bright. There's a fog that sets in and it's premature twilight. Twilight's mentioned a lot in these chapters, and I think it adds to, since it's not a very physical darkening, almost a metaphorical darkening, in which there is this heaviness that they can't escape. That even on this level right here, close to where we're standing, everything feels dark and dreary and foggy and heavy, even though up here, everything is still bright and nature continues and things move on. It still feels like they're captive to their own shadows while everything else continues to be there. So I think those are kind of my takeaways from that Gothic section. As for the retrograde sickness, I find this very interesting that Lanyon and Jekyll are almost getting sick from their own terror. Like the mental stress of interacting with Hyde and having to be around Hyde is leading them to an early grave. That this terror of their mind, this sickness of their mind is actually becoming a physical illness to the point where Lanyon himself dies. The fact that Hyde has this kind of power, this insidiousness of them, like Hyde himself is actually a disease that is taking over these men one by one by one and knocking them off. I think that right there is indicative of Gothic literature, the fact that your own psyche is dangerous, the fact that your own brain can torture yourself. I think that's a huge theme, and that's my takeaway. All right. In terms of what I'm going to be writing for my essay, I really like digging into character developments. I haven't decided between what I'm going to do. I'm pretty sure I'm going to lean into some characters in my thesis either way, because I find that the most interesting is character work. So I'm going to pick a topic that'll allow me to do that, I think, while still answering the overall reach. Okay, thank you if you watched this, and bye. Still 4 minutes. Sorry.